Hi guys, this is Charles1K92, also known as GM65 on the PlayStation Store network. Oh man, this game, it is really got me thinking. This live stream, unfortunately, isn't going to have any gameplay, should I say. It's just going to have me talk. So while I do a live stream, I'm not under like any form of seclusion of, let's say, an hour of talking. I could literally talk for endless hours just to kind of get my thought on this. So a little bit of heads up to anybody who will be watching this later on YouTube when it finishes live streaming is this: if you don't want to get spoiled by the game and you're just playing the game out right now, or you've just got the game and you're just looking up anything Kingdom Hearts related, especially for 0.2, if you don't want to be spoiled about the story, close off the application of YouTube and spare yourself the trouble of finding out this information yourself. Anyway, getting back on topic. Playing the game as I have done, and I have looked on my video just to kind of like see what everyone else would have seen. Probably yes, it was boring to see the blue screen and just everything else. That's the censorship of the game coming out, so perhaps on a later date I will do a proper recording. Hopefully it doesn't take an hour to do the recording of back cover as a cutscene thing, but you know, let's just hope. Anyway, doing 0.2 for me, it is an eye-opener and it has answered some questions. So for story-wise, at the end of Birth by Sleep on the PSP, Aqua is seen going up to the castle, which we see in the background right now. And for the first time, we get to see what her reaction is to this event. So she's still stuck in the realm of darkness and is just completely confused into wondering how and or why the world is the way it is. And upon her investigation of going into what's left of the world, she's having some form of doubts. Now, I don't know how long she's been roughly in the realm of darkness, because time in the realm of darkness isn't the same as time in the realm of light. So a second to her could be a matter of months for, let's say, in the realm of light, let's say. So upon pushing forward, she does have like self-doubt in herself, like looking at the world how it is, seeing how life has just been taken away, and it's difficult for her to understand this. And then she looks back on her own memories and she feels like, how could she give up something so precious, the sacrifice that she made for Terra and for Ven in the end. Then upon, let's say, you explore with Aqua and you try to go up to the castle, but the ground breaks away, and then Aqua then wishes that she had more time to get to the castle, but then she realises that time doesn't stand in the realm of darkness except for the clock. So she then comes across Gears, and obviously she attacks them in order to get them to back into the place to kind of reactivate. And as each one goes back, she gets a little fragment of a memory of her last experience with her friends. So from the point in time where she was at the Keyblade Graveyard, and then there's the point in time in Radiant Garden, then there's another point in time, I think, which is at the Land of Departure. I think the last three are basically on that, so those are her memories on there. Upon battling a few of the Heartless, which she doesn't know the name of, she knows that they're creatures, but she doesn't know what kind of creatures they are. She probably does, but maybe being in the realm of darkness too long, she can't think of the name for them. Eventually, she moves into the castle's foyer, and she still has a look at the clock, feeling very sorry for herself. Then she sees Terra walking down the steps like he did in the original game, and the Phantom calls out to Aqua, and she is somewhat happy but yet sad, thinking that he's in the realm of darkness when she saved him. And then when she tries to engage and like grab his hand, she realizes that he's not real, that he's just an illusion. Afterwards, she pushes forward, and then she goes into the Enchanted Woodlands, is it? Or just, no, the Dwarf Woodlands, that's what it is. And she comes across the glass coffin that Snow White was once held in. Upon investigating, she sees that Ventus is inside the coffin asleep. She then tries to wake him up, only to find that he disappears too, and she feels regretful for leaving him where he is. And then upon her trying to leave, she sees that there's a mirror. She engages with the mirror, and then her reflection seems to pull her into the world within, which is what it's called. And you find yourself kind of where the Wicked Queen would have the magic mirror, you know, in her basement sort of thing. Aqua then realizes that she is in a very strange place, and as she walks further in, 3 more mirrors appear. They seem to circle around her for a short time and then go back to where they were originally housed. She wonders what's gone on, and she goes back to the mirror that she went through, only to find that her reflection has been stolen. She then travels through each mirror, and then out of the 3 mirrors that she does go through, she battles herself. And each time she does, she's questioning her own doubt, as if first of all she's seen the phantoms of Terra and Ven, and now she's actually battling her own she's battling herself, like her own demon, which is what she would say. I did kind of skip one thing, which was back at Cinderella's castle, that before she actually went through the foyer, she battled a demon tower, I think it's called, which is the Heartless Tower Spire thing that you battle, which is, you think it's easy, but it's not on your first go, because it's just a very strong Heartless. Also because it's a multiple culmination of the small shadows making into a spire, which if you attack it, bits of it will fall off, but then another bit will just replenish its thing, whatever. But moving back on to what I was just saying, was she then realizes that this is more the darkness playing tricks on her, I guess, where she's got self-doubt in her own abilities of what she's been doing, and what she has to do is to try and get out. And obviously she can't dwell on the past anymore, so she has to focus on how the hell do I get out of this place. Eventually she winds up going through the Enchanted Dominion, and this time she sees both Terra and Ventus in a sparkly, glowy version of themselves walking through. Then the thorns of the world start to prevent her from going forward. Now, this is kind of like maybe the last remnant of Maleficent's magic, preventing maybe Aqua from getting somewhere, or just preventing any progression forward. A few swings of her Keyblade and using the magic, she's able to progress through. She comes across a few dark side Heartless, which are like the very biggest Heartless that you can face. And obviously like the shadows, neon shadows, water cores, fire cores, and some can't even wing bats or wiving bats or whatever they're called. And each time she gets close to the Terra and Ven apparitions, they constantly just disappear and go further in. Eventually she comes to a point where she meets a cluster of dark sides that have been constantly spawning, can't think of the right way to pronounce, can't think of the thing that they do, but if they plunge like their entire hand into the ground, they pick up like a piece of the world's, let's say, core. and they corrupt it with darkness, and then they send it up into the sky. Now, this was originally seen in Kingdom Hearts 1, except it was more or less the destroyer part of the world, and these dark sides have all come together, and technically they've done the same thing. They've all sent the thing up into one point, and it's just like one big ball of destruction. However, there's one dark side which seems to be more or less the de facto leader, who's been given this charge of protecting it or looking after it or using its power. So then Aqua engages this one. It's a bit tougher than the others, but she manages. After she defeats it, she decides to attack the sphere by splitting it open, and then it starts to implode on itself, like get smaller and smaller and smaller because it's collapsing in because of all the energy, and then it explodes with all the darkness just pouring out of it. Upon this, all the other dark sides are being destroyed by this power, and Aqua is like bracing herself from this explosion. Afterwards, she then collapses a little bit and then gets herself back up. She moves forward and she finally meets up with both Terra and Ventus. Upon calling out both of their names, only Terra turns around and looks quizzically, calling out to Aqua and says that he can't see anything. So, although Aqua can see what world that she's in and she can see the people that she's talking to, Terra doesn't have this luxury because he's still in the realm of light, but he has a connection to the darkness and he's able to listen but not see, and let alone interact. So she explains, she wants to know whether this is real Terror or if this is just the darkness playing at her, like getting her very emotional. Terror says to her that this is me, it is me that you're speaking to, although I'm not really here. Whatever you're seeing is just an illusion that your heart has created. And he says, because you've been calling me Terror, I'll only have to assume that that's what your heart desires to see the most of. And he says, if you can see Ventus, then it's the same thing in regards to the whole bit of illusion. He then later on explains to her that he's stuck in a realm of illusion because of the darkness, and it's the same thing that Ven's going through. He then later tells Aqua that Xehanort is trying to find Ven, so my guess is that Xehanort still wants to have his secrets of darkness, but he perhaps maybe wants to have Ventus because now he's just an empty shell. Aqua then turns over to see Ven and she says that she's hidden too well. While she does this, Terra seems to be succumbing to the darkness that Xehanort did to him. And then Aqua sees him probably how he looked like when she tried to save him in Radiant Garden. And she says to him, "Who are you this time?" And then he says, "This is Xehanort talking," saying, "Don't you recognise me? My name is..." And then before he can finish it, Terra then grabs his, doppelganger, and tells Aqua to not tell him where you've hidden Ven, although he kind of gleaned this information by saying that he's in the Chamber of Waking. Aqua kind of already said yes to this. Now, considering time-wise, my guess is that once this information was confirmed, and probably, just trying to think, once the information was gathered and Xehanort Xehanort knew where Ventus was, the only place where Chamber of Waking would be at Castle Oblivion, which is where Aqua has Ventus kept safely and hidden. But only Aqua would know how to get to Ven to wake him up. But knowing Xehanort, he would probably know how to get there anyway, but because he never done the layout, he'd probably face the same thing like anyone else who would try to get access to Castle Oblivion, hence the name. Now, probably that's why the first organisation was because they wanted to find the Chamber of Waking. That's why they were based there, but they could never find it because you need to have Aqua to lead you to it, or let alone find you the right door. Anyway, so Terra Xehanort then calls upon a dark side to grab both Ventus and Aqua, saying that you'll both fall into darkness and despair, whilst fending off Terra. Terra then says that he's had enough, and then he does something which his lingering will did, which was tie down Terra Xehanort and kind of like prevent him from harming Aqua any further. And then eventually we end up going into the dark depths. So we're literally back in the realm of darkness now properly. Aqua says that she's kind of tired and she can't go on, but then Mickey then shows up and brings her back to being more confident. Aqua then has another memory of Mickey when they first met, and she's more concerned about how he got into the realm of darkness. And he said, well, there are many ways. He says that I'm trying to like seal the doors to both light and darkness to keep the worlds roughly in balance. In order to do this, I need to have the Dark Realm's Keyblade, which is proving difficult for Mickey to find. But then he answers Aqua's question, saying that the only way how that Mickey managed to get into the realm of darkness was that he had to go to a world which fell into darkness. So this is where I'm kind of thinking this is on a theory and kind of a bit of a hunch, considering on how Mickey's arrival and the world that this will eventually be linking it to is this. I reckon Mickey was at Destiny Island the moment it fell. Like literally the moment that it just went into darkness, or at least was consumed by darkness. So going along the lines for maybe Kingdom Hearts 1, Mickey probably went in the moment that Sora was sucked up into the orb thing in the first game. And once that happened, I'm going to guess Mickey ended up not roughly where Aqua was, but excuse me. So the moment that he entered, he was probably in the Dark Realm anyway, or the Dark Depths. And hence why he seems to be searching and looking in one of the cutscenes, like secret endings in one of the of probably Dream Drop Distance. And he then says how he found Aqua was that he could hear her in the distance and he was following the light. And Aqua then realised that it must have been her wayfinder because she was talking to Terra and Ventus for a time. And he says, well, I've managed to find you and the pair of us should be able to figure out a way how to get out of the realm of darkness anyway. So Mickey and her team up together and they both fend off some more Heartless in the Dark Realm and then end up going through a portal of light. This ends up being one of the final areas where Sora, Donald and Goofy faced Xehanort's Heartless, which is Ansem's Seeker of Darkness. Now, again, this is me thinking that perhaps depending on whether they were there after or before, because the way how the world looks, it looks like Aqua and Mickey were there just beforehand. Sora, entered into the world, so it kind of makes sense. So now they've kind of come full circle with everything. So Kingdom Hearts 1 is going on while 0.2 is going on, in a sense. So it's slowly catching itself up and becoming up to date. Keeping in mind, this is how Mickey is telling the story, but we're seeing it from Aqua's point of view of how I'm not saying that she probably would have told Mickey this anyway, but perhaps maybe she might have, considering yes that we've played the game and we don't hear any of their conversation during when they walk together through the realm of darkness. My only guess is that perhaps maybe as some form of maybe a little bit of filler, they could have actually added in maybe a bit of a conversation between Aqua and Mickey. So kind of like as you're walking, you hear you hear Mickey saying, "How long? It's been 10 years since you were gone." And he says, "What have you been doing?" And then Aqua will turn around and say, "Well, I've been wandering around the realm of darkness for, again, as Mickey just said, for 10 years." How she's been surviving is time doesn't work as it works in the realm of light. So although 10 years have gone by for you, for me, I'm just been wandering through endlessly, going from one place to another, fighting off shadow creatures and everything else. And then Mickey says, well, they're called Heartless, which he probably does say in one of the cutscenes anyway. They both. She then probably just informs him of what she's been doing. Hence why maybe the story shows hence why Mickey's telling the story. Oh. So, where are we now? Oh yeah, in the near the end. So then Aqua and Mickey then go into the secret grove where Sora, Riku and Kairi once probably went in there as children, and hence why the paintings are in there. They then walk up to the door which once was sealed shut, but it's now open. And when they open it, they end up well, no, they actually don't go in just yet. I've kind of got a little bit ahead of myself. They then find the Demon's Tower, which then becomes the Demon's Wave or Demon's Flood, which is the biggest version of the Demon's Tide, I think it is. The Demon's Tower. Or it's probably Demon's Tide, which is what it's probably called. And then it attacks both Mickey and Aqua, and obviously they both team up together. She uses her ability with the Keyblade to try to chain down the Heartless, while both Mickey and her attack it simultaneously. Then use all different kinds of magic and spells to kind of kill it almost. Eventually it retreats, and Aqua and Mickey go into the secret place as I just said. They go through the door and then they see the Dark Realm's Keyblade. Mickey then goes and picks it up, so then that answers the question on how Mickey got the Keyblade in the first place. After that, Mickey then later on explains that the Dark Realm Keyblade is there to seal the door to light, while Sora's Keyblade is to seal the door of darkness because it's the Realm of Light Keyblade. And then he goes on to say that we need to have people on both sides, one to do the locking and the other one to do the closing of the door. And then Aqua tries to volunteer for that part, but then he turns around and says to her, unfortunately that position has been taken by Riku. So Aqua, obviously, I have skipped over again, haven't I? So at some point when they were on the island, Mickey questioned Aqua about her coming here to Destiny Island in the first place, and she said that she was considering on passing the Keyblade on to two boys that she met there, but found that only one was already given the power by Terra. So she chose not to give the Keyblade to the other one. Mickey then asks, do you remember the boys' names? And she says, sure I do, they're Riku and Sora. So then Mickey then turns around and says, well, they're the two that are helping him trying to fix what's been going on. So eventually catching up with everything, they see the door, which is the door that Sora sees in the end of Kingdom Hearts 1. Then Mickey says that although this one isn't the real Kingdom Hearts, especially the one that you and I would know, this one, although it's small, it can still do a lot of damage if it's remained open. So that's why they need to seal the door. So the moment that they are about to do this, the Demon's Tide then comes back again and tries to interfere because it tries to go after Riku, who's running up to the door to close it. Aqua then prevents the Tide from attacking Riku, and she locks it with the Keyblade and prevents it from moving forward, but she's struggling to hold it at bay. Mickey is worried for her and says that he's willing to help, but she says no, go and seal the door and then we'll deal with this. Eventually though, the Heartless breaks its chains and then takes Aqua and attacks Mickey, and kind of destroys his shirt almost, which is why at the end of Kingdom Hearts 1, if anyone was ever curious to why Mickey wasn't wearing a shirt, is that the Heartless seem to have attacked him that much that they seem to have destroyed parts of his clothing somehow. Anyway, so then the Heartless then sends Aqua back through the door, not the Kingdom Hearts door, but the door that goes back into Destiny Island. And then she then battles the creature in the cutscene. While at the same time, Mickey then helps Riku seal the door along with Sora by saying, "Now, Sora, let's close this door for good," and then that's it. That's the end. And then Aqua still battles off the creature, and then at some point she does defeat it. And then she just lays on the Destiny Islands on how it would have looked like at the end of Kingdom Hearts 1. So she's laying on the beach, the Keyblade's next to her, and she is somewhat happy to see that the world is being saved. And she says to herself, they've done it, they've sealed the door. And now upon this, the island then disappears, going back to the realm of light. And then unfortunately for her, she's not taken, she's left in the realm of darkness, left to fall. And she's happy with her fate, being this person who's in the realm of darkness, being a little beacon of light, waiting for somebody to come get her, or to meet her, or to do something. And then after the credits, there's another cutscene of her going up to another hooded figure, who is Ansem the Wise. That was at the end of both 0.2 final mix, not 0.2 final mix, but Birth by Sleep final mix cutscene, and also Dream Drop Distance ending as well. But we don't get a conversation, so I'm just wondering if in Kingdom Hearts 3 will we get to see maybe the cutscene where she's having the conversation with Ansem the Wise, and then upon this meeting she sees maybe Mickey and Riku, possibly. After all this, Riku, we go back to the present, which technically I reckon this is where it's caught up to now. Riku seems to be pretty cheesed off that Mickey never told him anything. And then Master Yin Sid then informs them that he asked for Mickey to remain silent because should they have told either Riku or Sora, both of them would have tried to attempt a rescue, which wouldn't have worked. And even if they did find out a way on how to get to save Aqua, then it would mean that sure, if we did find a way of how we can get you there, but we don't know how to get you back, that's why there's a problem. And he says it was lucky enough for you and Mickey to somehow return. So then Riku accepts that fact, but then Mickey says that him and Riku are able to go to the realm of darkness now, since they have maybe the ability to, since they're both Keyblade masters, and Mickey still probably has the Dark Realm Keyblade, and perhaps maybe he has the ability to open up the portal of darkness to the realm. And Riku probably has the ability to bring people back because he also has the power of waking as well. So that technically has that covered. Kairi, on the other hand, she is also there, and she says who's this new Riku that is more Sora-fied, as it were. And he says, well, he's been tired of being the role model, and he's more or less going to follow what his heart's telling him to do. And he says it's roughly Sora-esque. But then she diverts her attention back to the Yin Sid, and she says, she came with Riku in order to be of some help. And then he agrees with that and says that he is going to send Kairi away to Merlin the Wizard in order to get her trained up into using the Keyblade along with somebody else known as Lee. At first she's questioning this, and then she turns around and says, who is he? And then Mickey says, well, actually it's Axel. And then she remembers Axel from Kingdom Hearts 2, the person who kidnapped her. And Mickey says, don't worry, he's the one who's been helping us, and he helped save Sora and me not that long ago. So you can trust him. She then turns to Riku as if to say, is this true? He nods in agreement. And before Mickey and Riku go, Yin Sid presents the two of them with briefcases, telling them that these are new vestments for them to wear that will protect them from darkness. So I'm wondering if these clothes are going to be the new Kingdom Hearts 3 clothes that we saw, what, that Square Enix showed off on their Twitter account, where you can see Riku in some kind of new garment, and the same thing with Kairi. And literally after this, Sora, Donald, and Goofy eventually come into the frame. So this is where, for me, I was joyful at seeing the cutscene. Sora still comes out with the same remarks, saying that it's a secret of what he's been doing. And then eventually, when he opens the sword to say that he's back, everyone's already gone except for Yinsid. Donald then kind of goes into him saying, "What have you been doing? If you didn't take so long, you would have seen everybody." Yinsid then explains that everyone has to go because they're busy doing their missions in order to get everything prepared. And then he remarks on Sora's past endeavours, especially when how in Dream Drop Distance how he lost most of his power, and just is now basically he's like, if he went out to go and face Xehanort, he'd probably be squished pretty easily. And then Sora says, well, it happens all the time, which, yeah, so it's a good enough excuse to say that Sora's back to being level 1. And he then says that Yinsid then turns around and says to Sora that there is somebody who lost his power but then gained it back throughout his heroic endeavours. So you'll have to go to him and to that world and get the training done there. And although it will seem a bit of a miracle, but he says that we need you to have this power of waking Sora, because you're the only one who seems to have this ability to bring people back. So Sora says, okay, no worries. He also informs Sora about what Chip and Dale have been doing with the data that they got from Ansem. Well, that Riku got from Ansem the Wise during his endeavours throughout the exam, and they're analysing it. So he says, hopefully this will prove with some good results. So that's something new to find out whether or not Ansem's research probably knows a way on how to bring people back from the realm of darkness. Who knows? Or even from certain situations, but somehow Sora is technically the key to this. So then Sora then goes off with Donald and Goofy, and they are in the gummy ship travelling. The three of them then get to realise that the pathways that they had in both Kingdom Hearts 1 and in Kingdom Hearts 2 have now disappeared, as usual. So then Donald then says, if you try, well, not Donald, I think it's either Donald or Goofy who says, why don't you try picturing the friends that we know and the world and see if that helps us get there. So then Sora tries to concentrate, but he doesn't feel it, as it were. And then he says, well, what do you expect? And then Goofy comes out with saying, may your heart be your guiding key. The pair, both Sora and Donald are looking at him as if to say, what did you say? And what did you just say, Goofy? And Goofy just turns around and says, well, it's something that Master Yinsid always used to tell us all the time if we were going off an important mission. Donald and Sora look at each other saying, did you get any of that? Nope. Well, anyway, so then Sora repeats the phrase, and then it seems that Sora's connection to different people is linked to his heart, which is what the game always implies, that his friends are his power and they are his connection to the people that he cherishes the most. So then he summons his Keyblade, points it at the front of the gummy ship, and then is focused on that kind of like wish, as it were, and then he summons a portal. So then he's all excited and he says, we're off to the Olympus Coliseum, and then that's how the game ends. So I'm probably going to surmise on how 3 would probably start at this point. And it will be probably going along the lines of this. So obviously we're going to get like a very, very, very nice intro to Kingdom Hearts 3 to probably, I'm not say, well, I don't want to say probably, but hopefully we might see something where it does the games in chronological order, starting off from back cover to Birth by Sleep, then to 0.2 Birth by Sleep, to Kingdom Hearts 1, then Rechain of Memories 358 by 2 Days, then Kingdom Hearts 2, Kingdom Hearts Recoded, and then going along to Dream Drop Distance, and then finally showing maybe a little bit of 0.2 because it's still going on the lines of Dream Drop Distance again, and then going to the point where Sora just comes out of the portal, maybe, or I don't know. So opening cutscene, probably just a little bit of information of what's just happened, or at least maybe a continuation of where Aqua is talking to Ansem the Wise, and is probably then just going to show Sora maybe arriving at the Olympus Coliseum. So Sora will still probably be in his Kingdom Hearts 2 attire, and perhaps maybe the first opening segment like in 0.2, where they'll probably just like this mini tutorial, so maybe Donald and Goofy will show Sora kind of like maybe how to like do the basics. So maybe Sora still has a few things under his belt, maybe like he still has his dodge roll ability, maybe he has his guard ability still, who knows. So once he kind of like gets that down, maybe Donald then gives him like a first bit of magic. So maybe we get the first fire spell, maybe it's blizzard, or maybe it's thunder, who knows. So Donald says that he still knows a few things. So Donald will be still, probably Donald still remembers certain bits of his skills of what he can do. And he gives Sora maybe one of the spells. And then they pursue going further into the Olympus Coliseum, probably only to find that now the world is called Mount Olympus, maybe. So, who at some point maybe Sora comes across maybe one of the NPCs, and he says, "Look, we're trying to get to the Olympus Coliseum," and maybe the person is looking at him, kind of, "You want to go to the Coliseum? Why?" And then maybe just Sora says that he wants to go and see Hercules, and maybe at this point in time, they turn around and say, well, they know Hercules, and let's just say that he's gone up to join the gods at Mount Olympus. So then Sora looks and then sees Mount Olympus off in the distance. But the Colosseum maybe is off to the opposite side. Who knows? And Sora then makes his way to maybe the Colosseum where he can talk to Philatites and kind of like help out. But then he still sees that there are a few Heartless roaming around. And he gets in with some training with Phil, to kind of like for old time's sake. But then again, Sora does turn around and say to Phil, "Don't forget, Phil, we did get the thing approved by the gods in the sense that, you know, they are recognised as true heroes now." Anyway, so Phil probably says that Hercules is still up at the Colosseum, and that he asks why Sora is visiting, and he says, well, I need to ask Hercules something about getting a power that I lost. So he says, remember when Hercules was feeling down about himself and everything else? And Phil goes, yeah, I remember that. And he goes, well, we need to know how he got it back, like his original strength. So perhaps maybe there's a technique or maybe there's a skill thing that Sora has to do in order to unlock it. So Phil then says, well, be careful as you go up on Mount Olympus because those creatures are still around again. So then Sora makes his way up. He probably sees Hercules probably fighting off some of the Heartless. Who knows, we might get to see Auron again, who was a Final Fantasy character in Kingdom Hearts 2 that showed up. Anyway, so they move on. Sora probably picks up the skill, and then as the world completes, maybe Sora does what he usually does, either seals the world or does something so that they're able to get back to it. Who knows, there might be a boss battle, as per usual there usually is when you do your first world visit. Maybe it could be Hades again, or maybe it could be someone new, who knows. Maybe it might be one of Xehanort's 13 versions of himself. Who knows at that point? Who knows at this point? Anyway, I don't know if this is going to actually happen in well, obviously we're going to go to the Olympus Coliseum at some point, but to say, well, obviously we're going to go to it in the beginning, but how the story develops, the possibility is that obviously Mount Olympus is a part of it that we can scale, interact with, and everything else. So maybe there are certain things that we can do, certain things that we can't do until we get a particular level, until we get a particular growth set on our abilities. Just who knows at this point. I'm just changing this just to thing at the moment. Oh boy, it's early in the morning. Anyway. So, I'm not too sure whether or not this will transpire into the actual game of Kingdom Hearts 3. Who knows? The only reason why I done this video was because, well, this stream, which will turn into a video anyway, was just so it was on my mind and I wanted just to kind of get it out there for if anybody wanted to know, roughly. So if you did want to be spoiled, you got spoiled. If you just wanted to kind of like reconfirm what happened and perhaps maybe add in, I don't know, a comment or two in the description underneath once this video is uploaded so I can hear your thoughts and opinions about it, because hearing about what you guys probably think is important in my opinion. Man, I'm tired. So yeah, expect for I'm not sure what to do, because story-wise it would be difficult for me to actually do uploads for 0.2, but what I will be doing is I will be doing some recording for back cover. So what I'll try to do is somehow see at what point I can do the recording, probably when I'm at the main menu, and then I just have to select for it to start. And because I would have already kind of roughly just started literally mere seconds before I would have got into the screen, it should just record the whole thing with no issue. So there are bits of it which are like character stuff which I won't be able to go through unless I do a certain thing. But anyway, so hopefully if there is time afterwards, I will then try to go back to this screen if I do run out of time, and just go back to the back cover, select, obviously I would have selected it for it to do the recording anyway, and then I'll go through like the character bios of each one. So hopefully that was informative enough, and I will be seeing you guys hopefully tomorrow.